What a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below this video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. We are joined by Sleeping Warrior. Very good to have you here.
Good morning. How are we?
Very well. Very well.
Did you watch Jaren last night with Aaron Ra?
I did. I stayed up to watch Patricia and Mark and then Jaren straight after.
I tried to stay awake. I couldn't. I had to watch most of it this morning. I've got to be honest. Aaron Ra is out of his depth. And the only way that he can win the argument is to make it look like Jaren loses.
Yeah, steamroller.
Yeah. Jaren was polite. He didn't swear. He didn't lose his cool. He tried to answer and got continuously overspoken. So much so that in the end it become cringeworthy watching Aaron Ra. Basically, it's a tactical way to try and win a debate. Attack, 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 don't let them respond. Attack, 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 don't let them respond. Attack, 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 don't let them respond. Claim victory, and that's exactly what he did.
Exactly.
And I feel sorry for Jaren because he wasn't able to respond and didn't get a chance to respond on a lot of the things that he was being thrown his way. And with a different person moderating, or with a different person like throwing like a different Aaron Ra kind of personality, that would have been a really good debate because Jaren's not stupid. He's able to get around these things that he's throwing at him, but he wasn't even given a chance. And when it's like that, it's like difficult to listen to because it's like, yeah, Jaren can do better than what he's been able to do, but he's not been able to do it. So Aaron Ra, you're being a bit of a dick by not allowing Jaren to respond. Stop interrupting him all the time because it's almost like rumpus.
Yeah,
what did you think?
Spot on with your analysis. It was a shame because you get to a nonsense point asserted, Jaren addresses it, and the guy immediately fires off the next one. That said, that was what I tried to do when I simulated that with David Weiss. So we did like a mock debate, he and I, for the first 10 minutes of my interview with him, and I pretended to be exactly like that. So don't give them a chance to answer the question. As soon as they start answering the question, move on to your next point. And then halfway through them trying to answer that, move on to your next point. All globe related, because I was the one playing the globey. But that's what they do. You know, I've experienced it enough times. You know, you get halfway through an explanation that is normally reasonably complicated. You know, it's not like this is just a simple, well, people have just lied to us, it's just flat. And that can be accepted by somebody. It can't. You've got to explain whys and wherefores of how we've been lied to. And the purpose is, for the largest part, unknown. We don't know why. It just is a lie. But he didn't get a chance to go through any of those things. It was just scattergun. You know, boats go over the horizon, the sun sets, and so on and so on. It's just, you know, constant nonsense that didn't get a chance to get properly addressed before it was on to the next point, the next nonsensical point, the next non sequitur conclusion. Because that's all he did. Straw man and non sequitur. Straw man Jaren make up a nonsense that he hadn't actually said, or the old "you guys all think that," level that at Jaren's doorstep, and then expect a response. And you know, straw manning the hell out of him isn't going to win. In my mind, it certainly didn't mean he won. He just looked bad. Aaron Ra, that is, not Jaren. So yeah, it looked bad on his part. To the uninitiated, it looked like Aaron won. He didn't. He just scattergunned him.
Yeah, he didn't win. He presented it as though he did win, but he never. It's annoying because if you don't give your opponent the chance to respond fairly and you interrupt his answer frequently, it's belittling and it's rude, and that's basically what Aaron was doing. But he didn't do it Red's rhetoric way, which is effing and jeffing. He did it like in a quietly patronizing, condescending kind of way, which is great if you're actually right. But by interrupting Jerry and frequently speaking over him, and when you do interrupt him and speak over him, you do it like that. Yeah, you do create that perception. And like you say, most people will see that as a victory. But the reality was, if you're not given a chance to speak, it's a one-way, it's a unilateral discussion, isn't it? That you don't have much input on, and that's what happened.
There was one point that Jaren did manage to get through completely uninterrupted. I can't remember if it was a quote from Tycho Brahe, but he basically said, "I can create a model of the world based on observation, and you cannot disprove me." And that's a very powerful thing to. I think it wasn't quite the opener, but pretty much Jaren's opener was that. But then we go into the model. So all Aaron and Ra did was then discuss the model over and over again.
Well, no, he didn't. Well, the first thing he did was he said, "Yeah, that guy's lying. That's bullshit, and that guy's lying." That was his response, and I was like, "That was a bit harsh."
Yeah. In any event, he was entertaining.
It was worth watching, but it was hard to keep. It was hard to keep up with it because I found it really irritating. If I'm honest, I wish he was a bit more professional in his response, in his debating with regards to Jaren, because Aaron Ra can talk the talk, but he doesn't debate well. He tactically debates well, and that's a way of winning a debate. And from a tactical stand, he kind of won, but from a merit stand, he can't win. Oh, by the way, there's this protest thing. This what's it called? Where they don't the revolt? No, not revolts. What is it? Where the ball earthers were refusing to come in?
Oh, boycott.
Boycott. Yeah, that's the word. That's still on. That's back on apparently.
Oh right. Yeah, that's because we've got you guys absolutely hammered up against the wall with absolutely no scientific proof of your spinning ball religion. Yeah, I'd be boycotting too.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Is that the boycott is on now, and guess who told me? It was Ruhif, and I said, Ruhif, it's not a boycott, you Burke. They don't want to come in because they've got no way around the nonsense, and he thinks it's a boycott. So he's set a challenge down, which isn't even worth repeating. But his perception in his head is that there's a boycott on because Nathan can't learn anything, and neither can I. And we're like, yeah, we're not asking to learn anything. We're just asking for the evidence that your assertions are true. So obviously the boycott now is back in place, and they're all happily like holding each other's willies because it's a boycott. But in real world, we know that you guys are not coming in basically because you're scared, you've got no evidence, and you can't defeat the arguments because you have no evidence. It's all rhetoric.
Yeah, exactly.
So I reckon it might be quite an easy hangout today because I know that Ru's got the link. I've sent the link to Ruhif. I've sent the link to the Rumpus. And I'm hoping Rumpus comes in because I was having a really good conversation about gravity with him yesterday. My phone went flat and I was trying to do it in between jobs while I was doing bits and pieces. So it was like fragmented. But by the end of the day, my phone was just saying, "No, man, don't start talking to Rumpus. I'm only on 6%." And it ended up dying. But yeah, Rumpus has got this concept about gravity, which again, he can't prove, but believes and accepts the notion. But he thinks that if you get a train and you park a train on a hill, put the brakes on, train will stand still because the brakes are on. There is a resistance applied against the so-called gravity that stops the train from moving. Take the brakes off, train starts moving, and then, hey presto, he calls that gravity. And I'm like, no, it's not gravity. You've removed the resistance of the brakes. Train starts to move because of its weight, and it's on a slope, so it's going to start to move because of its weight. Yeah, but that's a force that's being applied. No, it moves because of its own weight, and it's on an angle. So basically, the minute you take the brakes off, it will roll. It's got absolutely nothing to do with a force being applied to it. It doesn't need a force. It can be manipulated by its own inertia. An acceleration can be created.
Just to get this in, it's potential energy.
Pardon?
It's potential energy. Smarter Every Day did this. They called it the gravity clock. So it was spun into developing countries and having radio, the ability to have broadcasts, more propaganda about AIDS sent to them so they all use condoms. And in essence, they get this clock, you pull a great big weight like you used to on a cuckoo clock, and with the force of gravity, it creates its own power. Absolute nonsense. It's the force of potential energy. So by pulling on the cord, you're putting potential energy into the weight. Simple. Same with your train. When it went up the hill, it increased its potential energy. At the top of the hill, it had its maximum potential energy. When it went over the lip of the hill, it had its potential energy interrupted by the brakes, and then when you take the brakes off, the potential energy is then released.
Yeah. I had a really decent conversation with him as best I could yesterday. And in this conversation, he said to me things like, you demonstrate that you are stupid. You can't even define density. 12-year-olds can do this. And he said things like, I'm just trying to look through the other insults that he gave me. Let's have a look. A 12-year-old will get that right. You must have an IQ in the 90s. And I'll be honest, when he said you must have an IQ in the 90s, that made me trigger something. So I asked him specifically, how far did you go in the education system? How high up the ladder did you go? And I asked him, because I previously said to him that you cannot give yes-no answers to yes-no questions. If I ask you, is it Thursday today or is it Friday today? The answer is yes or no. You don't need diagrams to describe what day of the weeks there are and all that nonsense. You just literally say, yes, it's Thursday, or no, it's not Thursday. So the answer is like yes or no. And just prior to me asking this question about the education ladder, I'd said to him that you're unable to answer straight yes, no's. And I actually got a straight yes, no from him yesterday. I asked him point blank, did you do an undergrad in anything? And he said, yes. That was it. Yes, the word yes. And I was like, oh my God, straightforward. So he can do it. He knows he can do it, but he just doesn't normally do it. And I asked him, did you do anything postgrad? And he said, nope. But I have done undergrad and I have done postgrad. So technically, if he's not done the postgrad, but I have, that actually means that I'm above him in the education ladder. So he can never criticize me from the intellectual front ever, because I've got greater attributes from the education system than what he does. My education supersedes his. I went higher up the ladder, and I've gone higher up the ladder than quite a lot of people. Maybe not everybody. I don't have a doctorate. However, I am higher up the ladder than what Rumpus is. I don't want to do it in a waving my dick over my head kind of thing, because I'm not trying to do it that way. But I'm making the point that he can never challenge me on this intellectual nonsense again, because I got higher than he did in the education system, and on that basis, that makes me superior. He won't be doing that again. I'll be quietly reminding him off air when it happens. But just let everybody know, Rumpus got to an undergrad, I got to undergrad and then did postgrad. So that shuts Rumpus up for calling me things like stupid and illiterate and ill-educated and stupid. All these nonsenses. Go out the window now.
Yeah, when you say you're superior, I think just to qualify that, you mean by his standards.
Yeah, I don't preach. I don't say anything about my education because I don't see it as relevant. I see that flat Earth is one of those things where it doesn't matter how far you've gone up the education system. By your own discernment, you can work out pretty much all of it. And I think Jaren's the best example of that, because I'm pretty sure that Jaren didn't go that high up in the education system. Might be wrong. Shoot me if I am. But I don't think he went that high. And my reasons for that is that he speaks in a colloquial term, phraseology, it resonates with everybody, including me. When I listened to Jaren speaking, I watched and listened to how he spoke, and things he said resonated. It worked. And I realized that Jaren is somebody that says it how it is rather than says it from the textbook. And when you have someone that's saying it how it is, they don't have the terminology often to describe things the way that they're meaning to describe them, because they didn't have them terms that you'd be familiar with. So I'm not being disrespectful or past remarkable, but I'm pretty sure that Jaren's not one of the ones that was considered to be academically rewarded. But that being said, the Rumpus clearly is, and he does have all the phrases, words and phraseology and stuff, and he can get the sentence structure and arguing points quite well because he uses all the big words. But I realized that you don't actually need a lot of that. You just need a bit of self-discernment. You need to all you need to do is realize that if you do certain things, you get results that are not consistent with what it should be on a ball. Sorry.
All right.
So, lost where I was at now.
Yeah, you're basically saying that it doesn't necessarily mean anything if you've gone higher up the indoctrination system.
Not at all. Not at all. ultimately, you and I are on the same wavelength. We speak the same language. We understand that we don't live on a ball. Does it mean that we have a model for what we do live on? No. Do we need a model? No. Our position is whatever it is that we live on, it's not what the scientific method is telling us that we're supposed to live on, because you can test it. You can test these things and you can see what they are. And you and I both know that it appears to be flat. If it's a ball, it's pretty illusionary, and it seems pretty far fetched to think that it's anything other than flat because it appears to be flat. Anyway,
Yeah, so that was the Aaron Ra Jaren debate. Check it out on the Non Sequitur channel. You want to see that? Yeah, interesting. I mean, it seemed like a fairly... Some of the arguments he was putting forward weren't that great, I didn't think, Aaron Ra.
if you scattergun many different arguments, they will vary in quality. But if you do it rapid fire and then refuse to give your opponent the opportunity to respond to any of them, or like just give him the odd one or two here and there, it creates the impression that you're winning because you're firing a load of points at them. But you're not. That's called bamboozling. And that's essentially a debate tactic, which, it might win you the debate, but it doesn't mean that it's true. So really, last night, most people, I think, will claim that Aaron Ra won. And I could see why they would say that and accept that he did win, because tactically he played the game, which allowed him to win the debate. But merit-wise, he didn't present anything that was credibly good, because fundamentally, I mean, I felt like saying to Jaren prior, make sure you ask him for evidence for his assertions, because he's one of these guys that's not rhetorical. He's one of these guys that's he's got all the rhetoric. He knows the lingo.
I think they are associated words, rhetorical and rhetoric.
Yeah, I know. I was just wondering, was I using it out of context? But
No, I don't think so.
He knows the rhetoric. He knows the position in science. But what his scattergun approach and then refusal to let Jaren respond equals, well, a shit show, right? But he won the debate based on that. But Jaren could out-debate him comfortably if he was given the chance to respond, and it bugged me. So Aaron, stop being a dick. Let the guy respond. Anyway, so yeah, we are being boycotted at Nath. So the link's gone out to Rumpus.
That's nice.
I've sent you it personally, Rumpus. I'd like it if you joined us and we could have a nice little discussion about gravity. Ruhif's got a challenge for you. I'll tell you what the challenge is. Let me go out to Ruhif. Challenge is, and I countered it with an immediate response, which he wasn't expecting, obviously, but where is it? He said he'll come on the show today if Nathan can...
I agree to nothing.
Well, it was countered with a fantastic response. Right, so... Oh, by the way, with regards to the debate thing that you sent to me and said, like, can you forward it to Ruhif? He said,
yes,
his response
Quantum Eraser, yeah.
Pardon?
Yes, Quantum Eraser had basically passed on some details. I just don't have Ruhif on Skype, so I asked you to pass on the details of the debate format and such like from Quantum Eraser, John, to Ruhif or Glenn.
Well, he said, was that from Quantum Eraser? And I said it was from Nathan, because I didn't realise it was from somebody else.
Yeah, it was from Quantum Eraser. Sorry, I should have qualified that.
Well, he said, I think he's misunderstood. This wasn't an offer to debate. It's an offer to explain why I think common descent is beyond reasonable doubt. And then we started talking about DNA for a bit. But I think when I said it was from Nathan, I think he thought it was about you. But I think Ruhif, it's regarding Quantum Eraser, mate. I didn't realise it was not from Nathan. I knew it wasn't from Nathan, but I didn't realise it was about Quantum Eraser.
That's okay. He knows the score with Quantum Eraser. He spoke to him personally. So don't worry too much. I'm sure once he's heard what we've just said, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Or come back with an alternative or some amendments or whatever he does. Who knows? There's usually a bit of back and forth before a one-on-one debate actually gets settled in terms of its format. Certainly in my past experience, that's been exactly the case with the one-on-one debates I've hosted. You know, the two parties want to negotiate about various different bits of how it's going to take place. You know, and Ruhif, by the sounds of his response, if he did mistake that it was me suggesting that I want to debate about whether or not, creationism is real. Yeah, not really my subject, so I don't know why he would assume that, but let's just pretend for a moment that he didn't get it, and he didn't put two and two together that it was from Quantum Eraser, the specific person who's asked him to talk about that subject. But fair enough, from his response, he's saying, no, I want a one-way debate where I tell you. Well, obviously he's not going to get that, is he?
Well, his response was, with regards to this challenge, he said, speaking of science, I have a challenge for Nathan. If he can't demonstrate to his audience that he knows the difference between big G and little g, I'll join the panel. And then he corrected it and said can. So if he can demonstrate to his audience that he knows the difference between big G and little g, I'll join the panel. And I thought, right, all he's going to do there to demonstrate to his audience is open up the Wikipedia page on big G, little g, and just talk through it. So I don't know why that's considered a challenge. My instant response was, well, if you can evidence anything of which you preach, you can join the panel. In other words, if you can't produce any evidence for what you preach, you can't. I don't know if he got that point, but I'm hoping it was subtle enough for him to realize. But then he said, I know I can join the panel. But so obviously he didn't get the point because it was more about the evidence more than joining the panel. I know I can join the panel, but if I don't, you then need some poor other baller to entertain the masses. There's a boycott of the show, right? Well, actually, the boycott stopped ages ago. So if there's a new boycott on the show, then it's obviously only one thing. It's because nobody can beat Nathan because he batters him in the corner, and rightly so. I mean, how many compliments and creditations have you been given from people about your style recently, Nathan? It's quite a lot. These people do deserve bullying because these people are bullies. They are scientific bullies that ram their religion down people's throats. We live in a ball. Of course we live in a ball, you moron. We don't live in a ball, though, do we? You're telling everybody lies. There is no evidence to prove that your assertions are true, but you ram them down people's throats anyway. I mean, there are people in the Ball Earth camp that are questioning what's going on here. Not publicly, but privately with me. There are people that are firmly in the ball camp asking questions. And I don't know, is that because we're having an effect, or is it because I don't know what it is, but these are ballers that fight us publicly, but privately they speak off air with me, and they're and they're asking all the leading questions, and it's like, maybe we are having an effect. But anyway, so he thought that he knows that he can join the panel, but it was qualified with if you can join the panel if you bring evidence with you, Ruhif. And yesterday when he came on,
no. Anyone can join the panel for any reason. So, boycott or no boycott, the show is always of the same exact format every single day. And no offence to people who think that they're having an effect by boycotting me, the show will be on today and tomorrow and the day after. And if you consistently don't come, the chances are all that will happen is more flat earthers will join. That's all that'll happen, and they'll talk amongst themselves. But it won't change the fact that anybody's still welcome to join. The link will still be public, as it is now. So it makes no difference. The show will continue to run regardless.
And if it doesn't run the way that it should run, then it's down to the ballers, isn't it? Because, I mean, there's a preponderance of evidence out there, according to people like Rumpus. The whole scientific community, or whatever his phraseology is, tells us that we live in a ball. Right. Bring that evidence and show it. And I'm happy to say that I've seen enough to make me question the shape of the Earth. And there's a lot of other people that think the same thing. Yet there's very little evidence for it other than brainwashed bandwagon that they're all on. We do need a brainwashed bandwagon fallacy.
Yeah, maybe it's the opportunity, as I say.
Ranty.
Really ranty. Hello, ranty.
Hello.
Oh, it is.
It is.
Happy
Hello.
days.
I've not seen you for at least 3 or 4 days.
I know. I've been working, mate. Been working.
Did you sort your hard drive out?
No, still not sorted yet.
Oh, no.
They gave me the same fix that I'd tried to do anyway with putting taking the partitions out and stuff, but I'll have to get back in touch with them and get it sorted.
Yeah, definitely get it sorted. But your PC's running better though, isn't it? Even though your hard drive doesn't seem to be working properly.
Yeah.
Can't get access to a single file that he's accumulated over his flat Earth career, but other than that, he's got a really fast PC.
Can't give any evidence for flat earthness or that juicy flatness.
Did you see
Although,
the
to be fair, I do have my memory card from the P900, so there's still some stuff on that.
Yeah, you haven't lost any of your work. Your work's still on the other hard drive.
Yeah, that's it. It's in my
Just
it's
need
in my
to get
drawer.
this one up and running.
Yeah.
Right, you've only got to
So
stick that
what's
P900
going on? I
out your
heard
window. And
boycott mentioned. Is that another boycott again?
Yeah,
don't know
there's
if-
a new boycott in
I
place.
don't know if it's new. It might be that Ruhif, after his defeat yesterday, is just claiming boycott.
Nathan, what we might have to do is introduce some tactical losses, so that we actually allow them to win the odd one or two so that they can stay on the show.
No way.
Because if we batter them in the corner all the time, they're not going to come in.
That's fine.
Yeah, but maybe we should let them win the odd one or two.
Why?
Because it's a show.
Okay,
Right.
do you want to bring me up to date
But
with what's gone on then? What happened to Ruhif yesterday? Because I missed yesterday's show.
Got absolutely
Ruhif-
pummeled.
Oh, come on. Let me do it.
Go on then.
Ruhif came in yesterday and he was like, he brought in this point up. He brought up the point about the Voss effect and how it proves the rotation of the Earth. And I said, right. So at this point, he didn't present the evidence. I just dealt with it like as though everybody knew about it. And I was watching the chat and people were asking, what's he on about? And I realized that I shouldn't really have done that. I should have made him present the evidence. But he cited Wolfie's 60-20. And then in doing that, I reminded him that that experiment was subject to the Birkeland currents. And I also then said, there is a centrifuge argument that shows that if the Earth was spinning, the objects that have the greatest mass would be centrifuged out from the surface towards the extremity. And if we did live on a spinning ball, the centrifuge would mean that the densest layer of air would not be on the surface of the Earth. But in the real world, the densest layer of the air is on the surface of the Earth. And we see that on the horizon. That's the evidence that shows that there is no centrifuge, because the centrifuge will be pushing that denser air away from the surface to be replaced by the less dense air. And then obviously the argument was, well, the Earth is spinning so slowly that. But it's funny how the scales are totally destroyed when they want to argue it their way, because sometimes refraction is negligible. Like, for example, when Ruhif brought up his boats thing and the boat in the background was 15 miles away, refraction wasn't even mentioned in that conversation. It's negligible, right? It fitted their narrative perfectly. But when it's like the lighthouse that's supposed to be 30 miles away and we're not even meant to see the roof tiles on the roof and we can see it, that's a problem, because refraction then accounts for everything. So it's all these things that were happening.
So wait a minute. The argument was that the Earth is spinning too slow for that effect.
The argument, the Eötvös effect, was that the Earth is spinning and you can see it because of the effects of the Eötvös effect. But that's subject to the Birkeland currents. But in any event, there was a centrifuge example given that showed that if there is a centrifuge in a system, the objects of mass will be sent towards the outer edge because of centrifuge. But on the real world, that does not happen. And there was no explanation for why that doesn't happen in the real world, other than, well, it's because it's too slow, or the atmosphere is not moving. There's not in the size of it, or basically there was no response to it by Ruhif whatsoever. But there was still no evidence. So there was no response and no evidence to the contrary for the real world in which we live. And obviously that went down as a victory for us and a loss against Ruhif. But since then, there now seems to be a boycott. That's the word.
Boycott. Nathan, by the way, I saw that video that you sent me about the perspective, the guy walking across that football field.
That was 2 days ago on the show. I'm glad you brought it up, though. Carry on.
Pretty awesome. I mean, I've never thought about doing that myself, but it's essentially what you do. It's exactly what you'd see, isn't it? It's exactly how we perceive things.
Yeah, I spoke to Anthony last night and said I'd quite like to replicate that. Did you read that, Anthony, and get the general gist of my methodology that I was proposing?
Where did you see this? Was sent to me on Skype last night. Let me remind myself.
Well, there was a guy that did the experiment on a warehouse floor. He did the same thing. He put his camera down on the floor, and I think he just kept moving it back 10
feet. Good times for all. Good times for all is the YouTuber.
Perfect,
I just spell it out. Just sorry, Ranty. So it's GUDTIMS number 4 ALL. So GUDTIMS number 4 ALL. Good times for all. Yeah, it's exactly that. You carry on, Ranty.
Yeah, and when I first saw that experiment, it's the same as if you put something on a flat table or a flat floor. Perspective-wise, things do disappear from the bottom up the further you go away, and it doesn't even have to be over a very long distance. As Good Times for All showed with his experiment on that warehouse floor, I think it was to do with the floor was so flat because of the trucks that were using the premises. It was like a warehouse or something. They have to be the low loaders, and the floor has to be incredibly flat. Just like the football field scenario. So yeah, I mean, I think the more experiments we do with that, I mean, did you say you wanted to replicate that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's one where a laser would actually come in quite useful over that short distance. You're not going to have huge effects of refraction, let's be honest, over the course of a football field. So you could just literally stick a brick down, level it, and then stick your laser on top. Make sure that you have actually got a level playing field in the most literal terms, and then do the exact same. Just replicate it. Just do the exact same thing, because then you do have a level surface that's confirmed as a level surface, as opposed to an assumption that it's a level surface. And then if you have a vanishing zone on that level surface, that debunks the assertion that automatically you can take it as read when you see something obstructed from the bottom up, it's earth curve obscuring it. Or in this case, Ranty, they were saying it was the drainage. So they're saying that football fields have a certain amount of relief, and that relief is what is blocking your view. In other words, there's definitely curve there. You couldn't make it up.
Right. I think another good way of doing it would be if you could have access to an indoor swimming pool before it opens, where the water is completely flat, and you could just stick a ruler down the back side of it, and then just see below your camera. How much of that ruler would you be able to see across that that flat water?
Yeah, we already know the answer though. I mean, water is at rest flat. It seeks and finds its own level.
Yeah, but would it still hide some of the ruler? That's what I'm saying. Would there be an effect there?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, that would be the flattest surface to use it on. So if you had a 25-meter swimming pool and you put something in the backside of that, you would be able to see if there was any kind of perspective issues from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Are you watching chat, gents?
A little bit.
Look at Nick. I'm trying to get Nick to join us because he's got such a prowess in science that I don't know why he's not joined us. I think he might have joined us once, maybe before. I don't actually remember it. But in any event, I'm trying to get him on the panel because I want to ask him specifically. And I asked him yesterday for a straight yes or a straight no. What would happen if you left a helium balloon on the assumption that the balloon did not burst? Would the helium balloon continue to rise into space or not? In theory, right? Would a balloon continue? A helium balloon, would it carry on going up and up and up and up and up and up? And without bursting, would it eventually get into space? Yes or no? Waiting for his response.
So yeah, that video that you were just discussing, Ranty, I want that to come up more often. Because yeah, there is an alternative explanation that essentially debunks that assertion. If you can demonstrate a vanishing zone over an extremely short distance with no curve on it, then as far as I'm concerned, that debunks that assertion completely.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, right, if you had a warehouse floor, like Good Times for All did, and you put a pencil a quarter of the way across, it would essentially, but if you was looking further down due to perspective, that pencil would probably block out the size of a football at the far end. So the guy that was it Ruhif yesterday that said, oh, there was a little bit of a drainage hump there that was causing that. Well, essentially, that's what we're saying when we say the waves in the foreground drown out the objects in the background. So you could have a very small wave that was maybe only half a foot or a foot, just a little bit of swell. But by the time that you get into, 10 miles past that, it could drown out a boat.
Yeah, exactly. It's just perspective.
Yeah, but they like to bring that argument in where they mentioned the drainage hump would block out, would cause this dropping effect of the guy walking. But they won't acknowledge the same thing happening with the size of the waves. In fact, I think a few comments in chat at different times are saying, what? So there's 50-foot waves that are blocking out the boat. No, it only has to be a half a foot wave that could, due to perspective, block out a boat way in the distance. So it's like Anthony was saying before. They cherry pick when it suits them. They cherry pick when gravity is correct for them. They cherry pick when perspective's right for them. You know, and then if they haven't got that and that all fails, then they'll just default back to maths and equations that, in theory, would work, but in practice don't.
Indeedy. Looks like
Indeedy.
Anthony's thoroughly in battle in the chat.
I'm sure half of them don't listen to what we're saying. I think they get into their own zone and they just have an argument about something, and essentially they'll argue all for the 2 hours about something. Some great debaters in there, to be fair. We've got John Watson in there. Who else have we got in? Yeah, John Watson's in. Multi Tom Tom, he's good at poking the ballers. Ali B is another one. Yeah, we've got the normal good defenders in. They'll keep the ballers happy in chat.
You're doing some proper shout-outs there, Ranty. I love it.
Sark's cool, yeah. He is obviously for the ball side. Obviously, keeps on putting in some nasty comments now and then. So does Baz. Who else do we have? Ron Burgundy was in before. Again, the usual trolls. So we have the good ones and we have the bad ones. Here we go. So that's cool. Just in another dig to me. But yeah, it's all good. Why don't you come in, Sarks? I'd love to debate you, actually. Please come along.
No, don't encourage them. If they want to stay away, let them. Speaks volumes, Ranty.
So have we got anything about sunsets then? Is there anything that's I know you keep putting your sunset videos on, but was there any comeback to that presentation I showed with the sun never actually setting and it just disappeared into the vanishing zone?
No, it did come up yesterday. Jaron had that come up on the debate, and again, he did actually do a reasonable job of getting the point across that as things go further away, they get closer to your feet. And the example he was using was in a Vegas corridor, and I can speak from personal experience in this. It's true, they're massive. They go on forever, and as you look down them, the top reaches the bottom. In other words, there's a vanishing point. It's just perspective. You know, we learnt this in primary school, and that effect is very real. It doesn't mean that the floor ever actually touches the ceiling, and the same applies to the sun. It's going further away, and the further away it goes, not based on a heliocentric idea of it being absolutely stonking enormous and absolutely huge distances away. If you've got a small local light with a limited throw, in other words, its light can only reach so far, as that reaches the vanishing point, it will vanish. It's fairly straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, I hate bringing this guy up soundly, but you know, on some days his observations will effectively say that we live on a ball that was maybe 10 miles wide, you know, or 100 miles wide. No, 10 miles a bit short. Let's say 100 miles in circumference. And on other days, you know, there are other people that are doing observations in the same location that are showing it to be flat. You know, Anthony found a guy that did the same observations with the pylons, absolutely flat as a pancake. And I'm sure that Soundly has captured evidence of that in the past. He just doesn't present. He just does not present it, which is to be expected, really, because he has a belief and he wants to believe in that. But it's not actually a true representation of what's going on.
Yes, Stephen Chess, this is indeed live. We are indeed early. No Arwen for you to fuss over though today, I'm afraid, Stephen. Stephen and Arwen are just the best of friends, you know.
I saw it was about a week ago, they had a bit of tit for tat on Skype, didn't they?
Yeah, and an unnamed person was contacting me saying, "Are these two at each other's throats?" And I was like, yeah, it certainly seems that way. Arwen does that.
Well, I turned the notifications off in the end because it was like every 5 seconds it was going video. I was getting a notification and it was getting that noise in the ears, and I was just like, oh, come on. Because the trouble with Arwen is he writes, but he writes like 2 words instead of writing a sentence. He'll write 2 words and then carry on his sentence. So it's 2 words, 2 words, 2 words, 2 words. It's every 5 seconds I'm getting a bleeping, and it's frustrating. So I just read back the next day, and it was kind of. I've seen it before with Arwen and Anthony. Actually, they used to go back and forth like that at one time. Because I think Arwen does take offence to things when he shouldn't, basically.
So it seems like Stephen was the first to strike out. Actually, I called Arwen out for being a BS artist, and he subsequently attacked me for the last few weeks. He threw a stone, and Arwen's been throwing them back.
He doesn't forgive easily, Arwen. Just one comment can trigger him for a week. So he perhaps needs to toughen up his act on that. But
He's a good guy. Let's not knock him too much.
Sorry?
Let's not knock him too much.
No. I think that's the only bad point. I tend not to try and provoke him anymore.
I would say he's the one that's progressed the most out of us lot on the show in terms of his understanding of stuff and his ability to explain it. I think he's progressed massively. Honestly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he can probably debate the ballers far better than I can. I'm not really a debater as such. I'll just, for the main part, I'll just do my observations, and I do a lot of listening. Anthony, he's like an encyclopedia. I mean, things go in, and he'll go and research it, and he'll find it, and then he'll come out with this list of experiments that people have done, and like I say, he can debate. So can Arwen. I mean, they're the two guys that you need to be having on the show more often. Well, Anthony's here all the time, but he could debate for the whole flat Earth. He's back. I can hear him. Anthony.
Sorry, I've literally just got back to the mic. What did I miss?
No, we were just saying.
We were talking about Arwen and Stephen's little tiff, that's all.
Arwen and whose little tiff?
Stephen Chess.
Don't say you didn't see it on Skype.
Right, while let's not reiterate all that petty nonsense. Both of them deserve a subscription. They're both ace. So, Stephen Chess, that's his channel. He's scrolling by now. Click on his little icon, subscribe to him immediately. You will see good things coming from Stephen. I can feel it.
I've just thought of a compromise for this this newly stated boycott. If the ballers are prepared to accept that there is no scientific proof of the shape of the Earth, then we can work on the basis that it's all academic, it's all theoretic, all make-believe,
all religious,
based on dreams.
So you're essentially asking them to work together to try and find out what the shape of the Earth is, because that's what you're doing. Because once they agree to that, there's no going back for them. And
I'm saying that if they're prepared to compromise with the idea that they've got no evidence of proof for the shape of the Earth, if they're prepared to accept that there is no evidence of proof of the shape of the Earth, then we can do it from an academic standpoint, a what-if scenario, hypothetical, a projection basis. Because if you can't prove it, then it has to be theoretical, right?
But maybe some of them would just concede that. Hey,
Can
part-time.
you hear me?
Yeah. We can.
Hello.
Okay.
Welcome.
Oh, I just want to say that will never, ever happen. Ever.
There you go. That's what I said.
Well,
Never gonna
in that case, then this so-called boycott has to be interpreted as a badge of success. Boycott away. Who cares? Bring some proof. Otherwise, carry on with your boycott.
I mean, to them, they just think differently. Like people prefer a detailed lie over bits and pieces of truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, the Earth is flat, and there's a lot of things that we don't really understand, But in order for them to convert, like we're going to have to literally spoon feed them all the answers, like step by step, and have a fully working model before they'll even think about converting. So it's kind of pointless.
Extremely well said. That was demonstrated superbly yesterday on the debate with Aaron Ra and Jaren. So what he kept saying was, that's right, it was exciting, wasn't it? So what he kept saying was, you need to have a model. You can't just have an argument from incredulity and say, I don't know what the moon is. And he absolutely, Jaren, that is, absolutely can say, I don't know. But as Vegan just said, very concisely, people would rather accept a complex lie than not knowing anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's like my son, right? He's going to be taking his GCSE soon. So we argue constantly about the shape of the earth. Now, as daft as this is, I know what he's being taught in school isn't the right way. But on the other side of the coin, I have to play ball, because if you don't go to school, you get taken to court. If you don't pass your GCSEs, you don't get a job. So from his point of view, everything that it's basically how well has he been indoctrinated, And so when we argue, I realize that the school system is doing an incredibly good job of indoctrinating him, because I'm his dad, right? And he's got the school, and he believes the school over his dad, which is fair enough. But if there was no schooling and it was, taught from home, sort of like homeschooling, so to speak, then he would believe the earth was obviously flat. So we have to count what we have to, if my son is so indoctrinated, imagine these other guys that have probably been to university, and they've had this schooling or re-education for 20 years or so. It's a lot of unraveling to do in their brains if they haven't got the capabilities to do that.
Nath, shout out the super
I was
chat.
just about to say, big shout out to non-schooling for the super chat. There's another terminology that gets used by the people who don't send their kids to school, which is unschooling. Yeah, big shout out to you for the super chat. Much obliged.
The issue is nowadays, if your child doesn't have a certain amount of attendance, you get taken to court, and not only can you get taken to court and get a fine, that is the first time. The next time, that if you get taken to court, you get a criminal record, and the last one is the kid will be taken off you and put into care and then sent back to school again. It literally is a vicious circle. In other words, the child has to go to school and has to have this indoctrination, and there is bugger all you can do about it.
Yeah, but obviously it's mainly to stop people from not having the skills of basic reading, writing.
That's not true. That's not true. Only if you're contracted to the school.
What do you mean?
You have to be contracted to the school. When you enlist your child, you contract with them. You sign up to all their nonsense, which some people have been through court cases subsequently to say that it's unlawful when they say that we can fine you. They're not a judge and jury. They have no jurisdiction to fine anybody. But I'm just saying that's based on you being contracted to go to school. That legal process in that regard that you're talking about can only take place because you've contracted with the school and you're in breach of contract if you don't fulfill the attendance part of that contract.
I'm not sure that might be entirely correct nowadays.
When I did an interview with I've forgotten his name now. He does a series called Truth or Dave, conspiracy something or other. I'll have to look it up. I've forgotten his damn name now. But I did a whole interview about homeschooling with this guy and anti-vaccines, various other things as well. I'll look him up and I'll get a link.
Well, I think under the Education Act, there is the legal requirement for you to send the kids to school, but it's optional. I think you can opt out of it and say, I don't want to send my kids to school. It's only prosecutable if you haven't opted out of it, but you do have to address it.
Yeah, but what does? I mean, I don't know parents that have done that have opted out, but how does that reflect on how they are treated by the governments and etc. You know, I mean, is it just normal? You know, nothing changes for them. They're not persecuted in any way. They're not put on some kind of watch list.
I think ultimately, I think when the child grows up, to give it the best starts in life, it does need to have some qualifications. So I think for me personally, I would send a child to school. However, upon leaving school, I would then reteach them in 12 months and say, right, everything that you've just learned in school, this is the way it really works. Because you don't get taught how to do a mortgage application. You don't get taught what banks are going to expect of you when you're trying to open a bank account. You don't get taught anything about how the real world works. Nobody tells you anything. You have to pick it up as you go along. So all that stuff that you learnt in chemistry, for example, or physics or English or whatever, yeah, poetry was great, but this is what you've got to do in life to succeed. You have to play the game to some degree. You have to do certain things, none of which gets taught. I mean, you don't really get taught cooking skills in school. We did have home economics, but you don't really get taught how to make a decent meal. And that's the kind of thing that you do need to know. They're life skills that get you through. So school is one thing, but leaving school is better, and that's what I would do if I was other people.
Yeah, but I think in the society we live in, you know, you're not classed as successful if you leave school at 16, unless you go on to do something like create your own business and turn over £1 million a year. You know, I mean, it's possible, but effectively, most people that leave school at 16 won't end up getting, you know, living in a house, a 4-bedroom house.
I
You
don't
know,
think it's
a
seen as
lot
a mark
will.
of success.
Don't get me wrong, a lot will, but you know, you're only classed as successful when you've been to university and you've gone on to sixth form and you got your A levels, and then you go and you get your degree, you know, and then all the doors open up. But that's still the level of indoctrination. You have to conform. You know, that's showing that you can be punctual, turn up to school, wear what, you know, the dress code, recite stuff over and over, you know, and you know, they like people to be obeying and walking in the line that they want them to walk in.
Yeah. But I don't think it's seen as a sign of success if you finish school. I think it's seen as a sign of minimum standards and minimum expectations. I do think that you are deprived if you finish school without the qualifications you're expected to get at school. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I just think that the way that the world sees it is if you were home taught, people will look on that and say, yeah, but what were you taught? At least if you've been to school, they know roughly what you were taught. You know?
Yeah, exactly. What you've been taught. Yeah. How well have you been brainwashed? How well has your brain been bombarded from being a child? Because let's face it, when you're a kid, everything that you taught stays in there. You know, it goes in. Kids absorb. You know, and if you are in school and you're being bombarded with this information, science, 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 this is what you're going to believe, and this is what I'm finding the difficulty now in my son. You know, I mean, you know, he sends me a couple of messages every day with different videos about proving the earth is a ball, you know, and I'll be sending him videos back or trying to answer them. And he is convinced because of what he's been taught.
Well,
Yeah,
If you look at everything else, I mean, look at the other stuff that goes along with that, right? Kids are taught dinosaurs in school. Look at Jurassic Park that's come out, and all the other cartoons. That everything's like space and dinosaurs and all this kind of stuff, time travel, right? So it's all to do with science. Everything that they are taught as a child, everything that they relate to, everything that the cartoons, the TV programs, the way they're taught things in school, it's all about science and um, you know, evolution, essentially. So it really is. It's turned into a war on religion, effectively, as much as anything. Because I can't believe that you can be a Christian and believe in the heliocentric model.
Yeah.
Not that I'm religious, but I just don't see how that gels.
Yeah. My mum and dad, well, my dad, who was born in 55, so he's old enough to retire now. But he was not taught that the Earth went round the sun. I'm gonna have to grab that call. 1 sec.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so if you believe in the literary teachings of the Bible, which is, you know, God made the earth in 7 days, etc., and we live on a flat plane, and then you believe the science where we came have evolution, you know, essentially it is a conflict of interests. You know, you cannot argue that science is trying to replace religion. And for the most part, it probably has, because how many people still go to church? I would imagine if you went back 150 years, probably what 70 or 80% of people went to church. Now it would be the other way around. Probably 20% would go to church on a Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree with you that science is basically a new religion. And what really bothers me is that, like, the people that advocate science so much, they really, I just don't think that they connected the dots that it's a religion. So they can postulate all they want about the sun, about the stars, but at the end of the day, like, they're not getting on a rocket ship riding 93 million miles to verify what they say. They're just postulating at a distance. And see, in their mind, they think, oh, well, I don't have to travel that far. You know, the math works out. So therefore, you know, it works. It's true. But the thing is, like, you know, there's tons of variables, you know, you might not be considering. So this is literally just a belief system that you're adopting. And just because somebody has already pre-calculated the math, you're just basically uh, doing the math they already did. You're thinking that, you know, it works, it predicts reality, but that's far from the case.
Mm. If you also, I mean, nowadays, I mean, even when I was at school, actually, we did get taught religious education, but it wasn't called religious education. It was called RE. Now, it doesn't sound much, but changing the name and shortening it from religious education to RE was kind of downplaying the importance of what our forefathers believed in, which was religion and etc. So science wasn't downgraded, you know. You had geography and you had history and all that, but religious education was shortened to RE, and I think that was on purpose, because nowadays it's very difficult to find any kid that's taught RE in school or would take that as a GCSE, because it's not seen as important. What is seen as important is maths, science, and English, but essentially maths and science.
I would say they put a strong emphasis on history as well. They teach you enough math so you can work the computers and be work at the office when you get older, and they teach you enough history so you accept the modern paradigm. And you know that's what schooling's for. I mean, basically, schooling is free. Anything that's free, you should be skeptical of. The fact that they're basically giving you a free education
But it's
to
state
indoctrinate your
sponsored.
kids.
It's state sponsored terrorism on the children. State
Right.
sponsored brain terrorism. And
Right.
you know, that is what it is. I mean, they give it you for free, but it's also compulsory. And it's giving you for free, and you will only get a decent job if you absorb everything and believe it.
I just want
And
to
you
plug
have to
that.
prove that you believe it.
Just want to plug that channel. So it's called Headlines Debunked. Lee Harris is the videographer, but the channel's called Headlines Debunked. He's also got a second channel called Truth of Dave, but that's more of a joke. But yeah, Headlines Debunked. Check him out. He's anti-vax homeschooling YouTuber. I interviewed him on Flat Earth UK Headlines Debunked. But yeah, definitely check out his channel. Well worth looking at him. He covers this subject.
Okay, well, Oxy's just said in chat, he's just responded to me, said, medicine is also a science. You using the scientific method. Fake according to Ranty. I've never said that's fake. But what I will say is that in the past, before we had all these vaccines and all these easy fixes that they seem to have come up with nowadays, in the past, it was people lived a much healthier life. Nowadays, it's not at all. Most people are on some kind of drug or other. Who knows what it's doing? If you look at the people that support things like medical marijuana, why is it banned? You know, especially in the UK, why is this? You know, why is medical marijuana banned here? You know, there's obviously a reason why in the past they were able to use herbs and all this kind of stuff. Anybody that says that medicine has progressed, well, why don't they have a cure for cancer? Unless the cause of cancer is something that they're giving us, you know, with all these additives and colorings, etc. Who knows what they're putting into our systems? But in the past, there wasn't any artificial colorings or flavors or preservatives or anything like that. People bought their own food, they cooked their own stuff, and they lived a lot healthier lives.
Right. And there's a few things that Oxy said that makes me interested. So basically, they see doctors, you know, trying to, you know, make new discoveries and uh, have cutting edge science. They mix that science with basically astronomy, cosmology, and all that. They see all scientists under one umbrella as they're all basically doing observable science. But we can actually verify, you know, what the medicine does. You can look into the human body and see the biochemical reactions, but we cannot travel 93 million miles to verify what the sun is doing. So you just can't just classify science under one umbrella. In any case, I would agree with you that to say that the medical industry has progressed is a huge undermining of what's going on in this world. Basically, pharmaceutical companies, they make millions because the medical industry is symptom based. They treat your symptoms. They don't treat the underlying cause. So basically, if you have a headache, they're going to treat the headache symptom so you don't have a headache anymore. But the cause of your headache is still there. And then once you take once you get those symptoms away, after you're reliant on the medicine, now you have more symptoms. And so basically it's an ongoing cycle where you keep just taking more medicine to try to alleviate the symptoms, and while the pharmaceutical companies are just making millions off of you. So
Yeah, quick link at that particular junction, as we have about an hour left on this live stream. If you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it's live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you'd like to join the panel, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join the panel, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Big shout out to Non-Schooling for hitting the super chat earlier. If you've not done so already, be sure to share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there is about 1 hour left on this live stream.
Yeah, is O'Rave been on today? Because he's mentioned something interesting in chat, which says cancer comes from a Western diet, and I think that's kind of true. If you look to places like India, the rate of cancer there to what it is in the Westernized world is greatly diminished. I think it's to do with some of the the cooking herbs and stuff that they have. Perhaps he could come on and talk about that. I'd be interested, actually. He's back. Riley's back.
Oh, I didn't know. Was I being waited for?
No.
I was just listening in the side chat, but listening in the background. So basically, we're back to the square one with the boycott. Then the ballers don't want to come in because they know that they've got no evidence, but they don't want to admit it.
Well, the title scares them. The title of this debate is "Do you believe in gravity?" And I think you kind of smashed it with that. The density. Yeah, I mean, it makes absolute sense if you think about it. I'm surprised I hadn't actually heard of that before.
Yeah, look up sedimentation and look up how objects find the state of separation, like in an aerosol. If you don't shake up an aerosol, it will separate all the compounds that go into it, all the mixtures that go into it will separate out into layers. That's why you've got to shake well before use. So that's our own atmosphere. Our own atmosphere is like a deodorant can. You will get different layers of our atmosphere, and we know that we have different layers. It's just like an aerosol can. So
But won't I just say the layering is due to gravity pulling the heavier or the denser objects down?
Yes.
sure, that's what they'll say, but you don't actually need. Gravity is described as a force. It's also described as a fictitional force, but you don't actually need a force for it to happen because the lighter objects will be displaced by the heavier objects because heavier, greater mass is greater than the lighter mass. So the heavier objects will push the lighter masses up towards the top. And we see that demonstrated in the centrifuge experiment we showed yesterday with with the test tubes. Spin the centrifuge up, centrifugal force will separate out the items. So we can see that evidentially that works in real world. But that is also the proof that the Earth is not spinning. And I'd have to credit Chris Monk for showing me that one. When he showed me that, it instantly clicked. I realized that if the Earth was spinning, our atmosphere would be reversed. We would have the denser stuff towards the outside edge, and we would have the lighter stuff on the inside edge because of the centrifuge. And if the atmosphere goes round with the Earth the way that they tell us it does, then that has to happen. It's called centrifuge. The argument about it being, oh, it's too slow to notice, Riley, it's irrelevant. The force is still there. It would just take longer for it to happen. But if the Earth has been around for thousands of years, it would be in that state now. We would have that state. That separation would be there, and the densest material would not be on the surface of the Earth. And we know that that's the case. So that's proof that the Earth does not spin.
I mean, yeah, to me, that kind of makes sense. I feel that denser objects will aggregate towards denser objects, and lighter objects will aggregate towards lighter objects just due to just I think density can basically explain itself because if you think about it, if something is more dense, it's going to have to my knowledge, more dense means more. So therefore it's going to pull more. And if it's going to pull more, it's going to pull the heavier objects towards it or the similar densities towards it. I mean, to me, gravity is always going to be a postulation because it's a ghost force. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it. It's literally a ghost force. So you can always postulate gravity, and that's always going to be the excuse. But I don't know. I'm gonna look into this density stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll show you now.
Why are you looking that up?
But when you say dense objects are attracted to other dense objects, would you be classing the ballers in that?
Well,
Whatever
they're not attracted to other denser objects. I wouldn't agree
Well,
with that.
they all seem to band together. I mean, they're pretty close. You look, M. Scott Beach is in the chat.
All right.
Okay.
He says something about not studying stuff. Maybe read Nick L's citations before backing him up, mate. Because you got to look very stupid.
The son of an astronaut's welcome on the debate if he wants to come in and talk about gravity.
But he has to admit that his daddy lied to him.
Huh?
He can come in, but he has to admit that his daddy lied to him.
He's already done that.
Nathan, let me know when you're sharing it.
Yeah, sharing.
So this is a centrifuge, and this guy's got two compounds mixed into it. One's muddy water, and the other one, I'm not sure what he said the other one was. And all he does is he does a centrifuge spin, and what he goes at the end of it is when the centrifuge stops, everything's separated out, and our atmosphere is like these layers that you are seeing inside the test tube. Now, I'll deal with the speed of the centrifuge last, but the point you can see is that these are all now separated out. So if I pause it there, you can see that the muddy water, the mud is down at the bottom. The rest of it's clear water, generally speaking. I know there's a bit more in there, but ultimately it's clear that it's separated out. If the Earth was spinning, this centrifuge would push the densest layer of the atmosphere away from the surface, and the lightest layer of the atmosphere would be towards the surface. And obviously in the real world, we see the opposite. So we cannot be spinning, and this is the proof of it. If there's a rebuttal out there for why this is not the case in the real world, I'd like to see that, because fundamentally this conflicts with what we see in the real world. And this is an important point. If the Earth is spinning, the centrifuge of our atmosphere must occur. We do not see it. The speed of the centrifuge simply speeds up the effect of the centrifuge. It has no bearing on whether or not the experiment or the point that I'm making is valid or not, because we do live, according to your model, we do live in a centrifuge. The Earth is spinning, so the speed of it simply speeds up the rate of centrifuge. It has no bearing whatsoever on the application of the point. So, Nick L, I'm not even going to look in chat because I know that you're going to be attacking this. If there is a centrifuge and there is this moving of the atmosphere with the rotation of the Earth, as they tell us it is, because of the Coriolis force, that's the evidence that they cite for it, then this has to be the result. And obviously, this is not seen in real world. That is proof that we are not spinning.
They're just gonna probably say gravity. They're gonna be like, well, it's just gravity's pulling
Oh, they do.
harder than the centrifugal force or something.
They do,
Yeah,
but
but
then
don't
we point out that that's just an assertion and there's no proof. And while they can say it in different ways, like, you can just accept this, or why don't you just accept that gravity is this acceleration force towards the Earth? They just want you to accept it, and we won't let them. So yeah, they can just say gravity. You can just say unicorns, but we won't accept that.
But the other thing, of course, is that if you remember what the actual speed of the rotation is at the equator, what is it, 1,024 miles per hour? Yeah, that sounds not a lot when you have it on the scale of the Earth, but it's still 1,000 miles an hour. We should see the oceans pooling at the equator. We should see the deepest waters on the Earth at the equator because of centrifuge. We don't see that. The equator is probably the driest, most arid part of the plane, and the deepest oceans are in the southern seas and the northern seas, most so in the southern seas. All right, you do get the Mariana Trench, but the exception to the rule only. The deepest seas are south, which goes against the idea that there is a bulge. This little idea of it's slightly chubbier on the southern side, pear-shaped, oblate spheroid, but you wouldn't notice it because it's only a pixel or two. Well, that pixel or two should put tons of water on the equator, and we see none. It's dry. It's very low. Very little water around there. Oh, yeah, that's because of the sun evaporating it, Riley. Yeah, well, if the sun was evaporating it and there was a centrifuge, it would be replaced by water because of the centrifuge, wouldn't it? And it doesn't happen. So it's complete and utter nonsense. And if anybody still believes that we live on a spinning ball after seeing that experiment shown, centrifuge would make our atmosphere separate and it would put the densest layer of stuff away from the surface. It would not be at the surface. And obviously the density of the atmosphere is most prevalent at the surface. Therefore, we cannot be spinning.
Do you know the quantity of the centrifugal force at the equator?
Do I know the quantity of the centrifugal force?
Yeah.
I'm sure they could work out the maths. That's a mathematical question that they would be able to cite. There'd be somebody in the chat.
It might be something just on Google. Let me see. Can I just Google it real quick? Because theoretically speaking, if it's greater than the gravitational constant, then we probably would see that effect. So that actually might be a mathematical debunk too. So
the gravitational constant is a very weak force. It's the weakest of the four major forces. And don't forget, it attracts it keeps all the waters of the oceans on the Earth, but somehow defies smoke. So, sure.
So what would the ballers? How would they come back with this argument? What could they?
They have a boycott.
Yeah, but what would they? You've debated them before, so what would their argument be?
That the rate of the centrifuge is too fast and therefore it's exaggerated. That's what Nick's coming back with. And he has a fair point. I mean, I would argue that myself.
No, he does not. So what we had from Philip in the comments was to say that we need to get the centrifuge turning, and they like to do this. Instead of a huge distance that you're looking to a star, you measure the little angle, and then it's a really small number. So if you can get the rotation to match Earth's rotation, oh, well, then it's really slow. Wrong! You've got an edge velocity of 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So, no.
Yeah, that's quite some speed. It's actually faster than the speed of sound.
But relative to the size of the Earth, I can see the argument that you'd hardly feel it, but nonetheless, it's still 1,000 miles an hour.
No, it doesn't make. Yeah, it's still 1,000 miles an hour. That's still an absolutely ridiculous edge velocity, like stupidly fast.
Can Can I ask a stupid question? But why aren't we hearing sonic booms all day long?
Because you'd have to have a change in velocity for it to do that. You'd
Well,
have to go.
the sonic boom would be trailing from the Earth, but you wouldn't, in their theoretical bullshit spinning ball world, they don't have sound travelling through space, despite what Steve McRae might think sound does in space. But that's an aside point. In space, no one can hear your sonic boom.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's the fact that a sunspot, like I made this point a long time ago, but basically, like if you see a sunspot on the Earth, right, relative to the Earth, the sunspot should be moving, or you should be moving away from the sunspot at 1,000 miles per hour, because you're theoretically speaking, they say that you're moving with the Earth. If so when they send up these what are those high altitude balloons or whatever, they say that it's moving with the Earth, so it's moving at 1,000 miles per hour. So relative to that sunspot is actually a still spot because it's just a light shined on the Earth. So relative to you would be moving 1,000 miles per hour away from the sunspot. But if you look at the sunspot, it doesn't look like you're moving really at all. So,
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry, just going back to the sound not traveling through space. Wasn't there a video of on the moon landings apparently where we heard them knocking in, using a hammer? Maybe it was to knock the flag in or something like that. But there was definitely a noise that was captured on the video that's been picked up on. And so how could that happen in a vacuum in space if noise doesn't travel?
Was that on the moon, did you say?
Yes, definitely.
I think the moon has a very, very, very tiny atmosphere. Am I
Right,
wrong?
okay.
No, but you still wouldn't hear it. They like when I showed people who believe in the globe that argument, they said, "Show me the original footage," and I couldn't find the original footage. But I know exactly what you're talking about. You wouldn't hear a thing on the moon, even though the atmosphere is virtually not there.
I just want to clarify this for the sake of vegan, because there's no ballers on the show currently. It's always worth qualifying that we are talking about the spinning ball religion when we say this nonsense. When we say things like you wouldn't hear anything on the moon. None of us have got the vaguest idea. We're just talking in the third party about their spinning ball religion and what they think should happen on the moon. They think there should be sound or have represented it with sound. Theoretically, there shouldn't be any. But all of this is pie in the sky because we're talking about a religion belief system and its theories.
When they took that Land Rover up to the moon, who was it who said recently that every kilo or every pound of weight costs an exorbitant amount of fuel to take, to take up there. So, but yet they were able to take these moon buggies up, and they were able to take golf clubs and play golf on the moon. It's just preposterous.
I don't know if
it wasn't a Jolly Boys outing. They were supposed to be doing things that were, this apparently cost an absolute arm and a leg to send these guys up there, and they're up there having fun, dicking around in a moon buggy and playing golf. It's insanity that they actually believe this, because that isn't what would happen. Trust me, if there was a real moon that we could land on and they had gone there, they wouldn't have sent them up to go play golf. They would have been doing serious experiments.
Right.
Ranty, what would be the position if you showed your son the centrifuge experiment that with the test tubes that I just showed?
And I have no idea.
And then asked him what would the effect be with the layers of the atmosphere, because the answer is the densest ones would be pushed to the outside and it would displace the lighter ones. So you should end up with the densest layer of the atmosphere away from the surface, not at the surface the way we actually see it. That would cause him a headache. Ask him it and let me know what he says tomorrow.
I will. I'll see if I can put something together for him to watch.
Yeah, don't do it by text though. You'll have to explain to him that the densest. You'll have to explain how it would be on the atmosphere on the Earth.
Yeah. Right, I'm gonna
ask him about
and go and get some breakfast.
Ask him about moonlight. Ask him why moonlight appears to be cold.
Right, I will do. But didn't the ballers turn around and say that's been debunked or something?
I don't know. Did they?
I think they did about a week ago. I don't know whether I can't see it because I think D Marble did an experiment in the sunlight and the sunshade or something like that, and showed that it was a lot cooler.
I haven't seen anything that debunked it, so
I haven't seen anything to debunk it either.
yeah.
Nathan, have you seen anything to debunk it?
Yeah, I think
Well,
they just said
well,
that, you know, like they
there's a
all
whole-
do. They all clam it together and go, "It's been debunked."
There's a whole series.
And in the hope that
Self-proclaimed
people
winners.
would believe it.
Well,
Yeah.
there's
As long as there's a
of
logical and
experiments.
reasonable explanation, that's what they constitute as a debunking standard of evidence.
It's not,
Logic and
it's not
reason, yeah,
necessarily that it's been debunked. It's that there's been lots of people who've done this experiment and got differing results. I mean, I had this discussion with Jem Panda, and he said it could be a case of selective reporting, because even Jeren did this test and did not get the consistency of result that you would hope for as a flat earther who asserts that the moon is cold. There was plenty of people who did publish their results that did not get that exact result. So from that perspective, I wouldn't say it was debunked, but I would say that other people have come up with differing results when experimenting on the moon's temperature based on what it's projecting down to us here on Earth. So yeah, whether or not it's selective reporting, if you've seen more people finding that the moon's light is cold, then that, you know, I would be inclined to probably go that way, knowing what I know about flat earthers now, how they put info out. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Right, I'm nipping off. I'm going to go and get a breakfast. I am absolutely starving. So I'll leave you guys to it.
Okay.
Right, have fun.
See you later.
See you later,
Speak to
Anthony.
you
Thanks
later.
for dropping by.
See ya.
Shannon Christopher William Cook has asked loads of times for a shout out. So shout out
Shout
to you.
out to Shannon Christopher William Cook.
He wants
There
the
we go.
link.
It's in the info box. I say it like every half an hour.
Click the link. Right, I'm off. Go and get some breakfast.
Okay.
See
You
you
have
in a
to
bit.
actually leave. You sound a bit like Gordon Brown now, saying that he was leaving, but he wasn't saying when.
I'm going, but I want to stay. I'm going.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye. So Shannon Christopher William Cook, click the description box. You'll see it right at the bottom.
I don't know if that link worked because I have to go to Skype just to get the link.
Oh, maybe it doesn't work. Let's test it.
What's going on? Let's test it, and then now it's all gone quiet.
I'm testing it. Bear with me.
Oh,
What are you testing?
Join the show here. Click the link.
It works.
and
yeah,
it doesn't
wrong
work.
with it.
I knew it didn't work.
No, it does.
It does
Oh,
work.
it does?
That's how
Yeah.
you're here.
Maybe my computer's just slow. I don't know.
That's great. M. Scott Veach, I asked him before, did he know specifically the reason for the boycott? Did he actually know it? He hasn't even responded.
Maybe you'd like to speculate, Anthony.
It's because they got nothing. They haven't got to come back to why the separation of the atmosphere doesn't occur the way that it should do if there was a centrifuge. Should be the opposite way around. We should have the lighter stuff towards the surface and the denser stuff away from the surface, as centrifuge would dictate, and it doesn't happen. Should have played again, Nathan, just for the fun of it. Okay, maybe not. Do you know, I'm enjoying the peace and quiet at the minute, to be honest. What time are we on? 10:32. So we've got half an hour to go.
You're on 10:32. I'm at 4:30 a.m.
Why are you up at this time of the day?
So I got carried away because I made a dumb mistake. I went on the Discord and had like a long conversation about like parallax and stuff. And then I saw that Nathan's hangout was open. So I said, oh, might as well just go ahead and go all out. But whatever.
Steve Morris is reporting that the link is not working in the description. However, when I click the link, it worked for me, and I'm using Google Chrome. So perhaps if Vegan Warrior, Part-Time Vegan's got an issue and Steve Morris has got an issue, maybe it's worth putting a new link up, Nath. Alan B says the link takes you to another room. Oh, right. I didn't know that the link...
Nah,
That's a different point.
the link sometimes will go wrong if you're using a mobile device, but that's a Google issue. It won't be anything to do with... A new link will not solve that. You know, that just occasionally... It happens to me. I try and join someone's show from my iPad, and it just takes you to an empty room. And you are clicking the right link, and the link is working, and other people are joining, and you're watching them. But, you know, that's not my issue. I'm not going to start a new Hangout based on that.
Well, I can see that if I can see that Alan B is in the link, in the room that the link is taking me to, that indicates that the link's not right, Nath. I'll be honest.
I'll repost it. Give me 2 seconds.
If Alan B is in the room that we're not in, then the link's
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just do exactly what I've done an hour and a half ago and cut and paste it into the description box. It is the same link. Let's just double check. Yeah, it's the same link. I've reposted it.
Let's see if it works now. Let me see if it works now. Okay.
I do see Alan B in the other room on his own. I don't understand what's going on there.
It's been nice though. I had a phone call with my mother off air.
Yeah, now it's working. I actually. There's 3 other people in this other room.
That's nice.
Which 3 are they?
I see Alan B, Arav Inley,
Yeah.
and No Globe Zone.
Oh wow.
We're gonna have to blame Nathan for this. This is something to do with the mod.
I have literally no idea why it's doing that. The link works. You're here.
Yeah, it's like the Lemmings link, isn't it? Like follow the link and you'll end up off the cliff.
Maybe it's a buffer that YouTube have introduced. Who knows?
Yeah, but if you think about it, nobody's joined. Part-Time Vegan said he got the link from the
You have to go to the
chat.
Skype.
Oh, did you? Oh, that does... Okay. I thought you just joined via the link in the info box, which is the same link I posted in Masturbators. Yeah, they're the same link. So I don't get it. But as I say, I've experienced it myself when I've tried to join people's show.
Okay, there goes Arwen.
Hey, Arwen.
Did you get the link from the chat or did you get it from Masturbators?
I got it from Skype.
Yep.
Skype.
Do us a favour, Arwen. Just drop and then rejoin in through the link in the chat and see if it works.
What? Okay. Sure.
Because I've got a feeling Arwen's going to end up in that other room with them 3.
I'd like to get Arev's contact details. I'm sure I've asked him before to email me. NathanOakley1980@AOL.com, Arev, if you're listening. Chances are you're not, as you're in some strange Twilight Zone Google Hangout room somewhere.
They're probably like debating each other right now too.
Yeah. Based on rhetoric and no evidence.
I don't know. Arev, No Globe, and Al. I don't think they'd end up having much debate.
No. There's not a lot going on with RB, is there?
No.
He's from Leeds, though. That makes him okay.
We haven't got Arwen immediately back, so yeah. Duff link today.
Yeah.
Well.
And you know what'll happen now? Arwen will think that we've done it deliberately to upset him.
Yeah, it seems like the link in the YouTube description is linking to another hangout. The Globes are
weird.
having a little party there. Saw Alan B in there. And
Yeah, that's got right. We have to blame Nathan for this mistake. Even if it's not Nathan's fault, he's responsible for the link in his hangout, isn't he?
You what now?
Huh?
What did you say? What am I responsible for? What have I done now?
You're responsible for the link not being right. Even if it's a Google fault, we're blaming you.
Oh, I don't care. They can blame me. They said they'd got a boycott on, so who cares?
Can we not get the link in the public chat then, just so that at least?
Oh, I can just post it in the. Yeah, I could do that. Post it in the chat box. You mean?
Yeah. Whilst
Yeah,
we realise
sure.
there's an issue, but we don't know why.
Maybe you should copy the one from Skype and put that in there.
Wouldn't let me do it. That's weird. Just try something different.
Dave Shaw said, "Join the show here. Link on YouTube description. Tries to take me to the other hangout using the Opera browser, like what Arwen said. That's weird." I love Google.
man, I still have a headache from that hangout thing that Jaron was in yesterday.
Yeah, you watched it with Aaron Ra, yeah?
Man,
That was terrible. That was absolutely terrible. But I mean, to be fair, it is hard to debate.
It's hard
yeah,
to
it's very hard to debate if you can never ever finish a single sentence.
Yeah.
Have you seen?
To be fair, I can feel I
If the
can
other's convinced that he's making arguments when he's saying that he has proof that the moon is physical because he can see it and persists at it. So it's completely ridiculous. Also, the moderator making that idiotic statement that he was neutral. Oh yeah, he was so
No, he's definitely not neutral.
absolutely a farce. The whole
But neither
thing
am I.
was a farce.
Let's be honest.
No, he claims
Amazing
all
that
flat
Jaron
earthers are
kept in
idiots.
there.
Yeah, he was joining the battle. He probably wouldn't win. You gotta
There
you
you
gotta
go.
basically.
Haunted House 2, right on cue. As soon as I put it out in the public chat.
Yeah, we know what his MO is, so he's immediately removed.
Isn't that weird? So you put it in the info box. Nummy how you doing? Good to have you.
Hi, yeah, it's me.
Good to see you.
Yo,
So did that work from the... Did you join from the chat then?
I took it from the. You know what? I'm having a. I'm not getting a good audio signal from you guys. I think I should try to join again.
Okay, no worries.
Turn your
Okay.
bandwidth down on your signal.
Okay, how do I do that again?
So if you move your mouse over the Hangouts page, there's a cog at the top. If you click the cog...
Oh, yeah.
No, sorry, not the
Next.
cog. The 3 lines. The 3 lines brings up
Oh yeah.
a bandwidth slider.
Okay, yeah. 1 second. Okay, is that?
There we go. Test, test, test.
No, that echo's still there.
Yeah, that'll dissipate. You get that when a new Hangout, new guest comes in. Hello, the Rumpus. Good to have you.
Yeah, I'm just.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes. I've no idea what you've been talking about, so I've missed. I haven't been watching so far. I don't know if you've been discussing the R and Ra hangout, no doubt.
Yeah, we did a little bit. What did you think of it?
Why did Arwen just mute me? Oh, thanks, Arwen.
No need. Don't mute
sorry.
people, please.
He was trying to do nummy. Nummy, there's something wrong with your mic. You're picking up a lot of background noise. It sounds like chewing or something.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know what's wrong. I'm just gonna figure this out. I'm gonna quit again. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Johannesson obviously didn't offer any evidence. I think he only offered two pieces of evidence for a flat Earth. One, that someone turned round the South Pole and didn't go across because it was obviously much too expensive. And I think the second point he made was being able to see, couldn't be able to see 3 trillion miles or something stars. That was the only 2 points he actually raised as arguments against the spherical Earth and for the flat Earth.
How much opportunity did you get to raise these points?
I agree. You're probably going to say that he was over talked a bit by Aaron Ryan. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. So, but the trouble was, he kept on going. I mean, your favourite phrase, Scene Warrior, the rhetoric. He just simply his line of attack was, "You ought to doubt this. You ought to doubt this. This person turned around when he went there. When there are other reasonable explanations why this happened. Oh, you shouldn't believe in this. There was some old. Copernicus was using some old data. But none of these things are arguments for the flat Earth. They're just sort of little bits of history or something that can be accounted for by other means. There was no right. This is the Earth is flat because if I go over here, the curve does this or something. Oh, that's right. And he was denying the fact that the sun doesn't go below the horizon. I mean, when you make statements like that, then you're not going to get treated very well when we see it, as Nathan would say, we see it, and therefore it's there. And if we can see the sun going below the horizon, well, you're denying the evidence of your own eyes, and that sort of thing obviously got Aaron Ra a bit excited. And then he claimed he had to go to London to get to Australia from South America or something. He didn't. I must say, he didn't actually say you had to land there. I think it wasn't quite clear whether he meant he was off suggesting he had to land there. He didn't specifically say that. So when Aaron Ra said he didn't actually say that. He just said to go via London, I think in the sense of going past it sort of geographically.
That's a good point, Rumpus, but Jaron wasn't pretty much allowed to continue a train of thought ever. So
I would actually
that he would bring in like weaker arguments eventually, because it was like a giant sped up ping pong match that you just quickly throw in words in there just to be heard eventually. So
I would agree that yes,
he made some good statements here and there, but it was just talked over immediately, and then he moved on, and that was stupid. Like, for example, the laser test, being able to see much further than the curvature would allow, all of that. He should have delved deeper into that, but he just moved on because the whole thing was just
I would agree that Aaron Ra did overtalk him, and so I would agree that
constantly.
Not quite constantly, but yes. But I would agree that
every single sentence he uttered, everyone.
Yeah, almost everyone.
Okay. I don't think that's quite going quite that far, but yes, he did not allow Johannesson. There were definitely occasions when Johannesson was trying to talk.
It was almost Alex Jones level.
But it was basically 2-on-1 too, because the moderator didn't even really do too much.
He didn't do too much, but yeah, that's not 2-on-1. That's just him not intervening. That's quite different.
Well, I mean, he would cut him off too, and basically.
Oh no! Come on, he barely spoke for the first hour. Steve did. So come on, you can't say that.
And the Rumpus, I have a question to you.
Yeah. By the way, Aaron, well done. Well, so I want to compliment you on Aaron on this centrifugal force thing, for which I've drawn some diagrams. The fact that you're actually thinking of it, and you actually bothered to draw a diagram, and you actually thought about it, and you worked out the direction of the centrifugal force. That's the second intelligent thing you said in about 1 year. So I want to compliment you, at least thinking it. You got it wrong, but at least you tried.
Rumpus. So, do you agree that seeing the moon is proof that it's a ball of dirt?
Well, you can see from the shapes of the craters that it's obviously a sphere, and you can see by the way that the shadow of the sun falls on it.
So, yes, you agree that seeing the moon is proof that it's a ball of dirt?
It's proof that the way the shadows fall on it, you prove that it's a sphere. So that's the first point. Now, whether it's dirt, wow. Well, you can obviously the way if it was a disc or something, the shadow of the sun would fall in a different way, and you can see by the way the craters change from circles to ovals, ellipses towards the edge. That is clear indication of it. And obviously we've been there. So
observation proves physicality. It's interesting.
Well, we can bounce the radar off it, so we know that it's there from radar.
Yeah.
We've actually landed on it, so we've actually taken samples from it. So Yes, we do know. But whether you can just observe it and say that's a ball of dirt, as you put it.
It's not what I said.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying whether they could justify that.
Hold on, let's just get to that then. So you've got a justification that they've landed on it. So can you show us your evidence of that?
Well, there are Japanese, as well as obviously the NASA footage. We actually have Japanese satellites that went round the moon have taken pictures of the American landing Apollo missions. We've actually got the rovers and things, and all the lunar modules. Actually, from pictures from Japanese other space agencies have taken pictures of it. So I believe that to be proof.
Do you need me to repeat my question, Rumpus?
Okay. You want proof of what? Well, the trouble is taking photo. Well, what the trouble is, most normal people would say that if another space agency had taken photographs of someone else's equipment, they would say that would constitute proof. But so the only way you're going to argue proof is if I actually went there myself and touched it, I suppose. That's presumably the only thing you would argue is proof.
That'd be a good
I haven't
start.
showed anything yet, Rumpus. So you've said men have been there. What's your proof men have been there?
Actually, you said we. Who's we?
Okay, we, the human race, is what everyone referred to. I suppose.
So
The human race hasn't not been to
space
the moon.
and also to the moon.
Hold on, I just got to correct that incorrect assertion. The human race has not been to the moon.
Yeah, the representatives of the human race have been.
Sorry, no, they don't represent me. They're not representatives of me. Therefore, they're not representatives of the human race. If one single individual says they're not representing them, that would be me. So I'll just correct it one more time. The human race has not been to the moon, nor have representatives of the human race been to the moon. Now, Rumpus, you asserted that men have been to the moon. I'd like to see your evidence of that, please.
NASA footage.
I'd like to see it. Do you not understand simple words? See.
Yeah, come on, Nathan, behave.
See means look. Do you want me to get a dictionary definition of the word see?
Nathan, share my screen, please.
Well, okay, you want me to get some footage of it, do you?
Yes, please.
Just before he does, Nathan, just share my screen quick.
Anthony, do you have some math on that? Do you have some equations on that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I've got a picture of Santa, and my prediction, my observed prediction is that once a year, and around Christmas Eve, we will see him in the night sky with live footage. Therefore, Santa is true.
Right, but you know
the
that
standard has been set, it would seem.
What's the difference between observing that Santa is real, because he's really on picture right now, and making a prediction that he will appear once a year on around about Christmas Eve, and there will be live footage of him going all the way around the Earth, a bit like the ISS. What's the difference?
We know we can account for people being dressed up in things. There's nothing distinguishable about it. If we take photographs of some human placed equipment on the moon, that's quite different. We can't account for that by normal.
He has got equipment. He's got a sleigh. Hold on, he does have equipment, so we can account for people being dressed up. The astronauts, I assume, dressed up. You said equipment. Well, he has a sleigh that flies.
We'll show us a picture of that.
Okay.
No worries. Do you want to get a picture of the Santa sleigh up, please, Anthony?
That's been verified by an authority such as a space agency.
Verified. Why would it have to be specifically verified by a space agency? Why can't I verify that Santa's real?
Well, you're not an authoritative source, whereas a space agency.
Let me get this straight. I have to be an authoritative source in order to verify whether or not Santa's real.
Yes, because people fake things. So someone like
Hello,
that, whereas a
Martin,
space agency is an authoritative force, an authoritative organisation.
And they would never fake anything. Yeah.
No, they don't.
Let's just get it clear. According to Rumpus, in order to debunk Santa or verify Santa, you need to be in authority.
Or have multiple people who are reliable witnesses are offering that.
Just listen to him. Do you realise how ridiculous you sound, Rumpus?
There are tens of thousands of people who work in these space agencies.
Sorry, we're talking about Santa. Try to keep up. We're talking about Santa.
Yeah, and I'm trying to describe to you what constitutes an authoritative source and an authoritative witness. And people on the street who've got some incentive to make up a Santa, perhaps like Anthony, just to make a point, is not the same as an authoritative organisation where there are tens of thousands of people with legal obligations.
But how can you discern the difference?
Well, because one of them has all sorts of legal obligations. They're responsible institutions. They have legal obligations to the government. They are professional people who would not be spending their time doing something silly.
Right, but that's not discerning the difference between the two.
Well, it is, because I told you one of them is an authoritative source,
Hello, Alan B.
authoritative witness, and the other one is just a simply person. You can't rely on just every person on the street. So there's a very big difference there. I mean, just like you would trust, what the NHS or something? It's just the same structure, same. You'd regard that as an authoritative source.
But we can see the legs moving. What's the problem here? I don't see any problem with why Santa's not real.
Because you do not have any authoritative witnesses.
This is on video right now. It's on screen. I can see it.
Oh, I can't.
Authoritative witnesses, right? So in that case, Arwin, would you agree with me that the evidence I've presented is strong enough to persuade you that Santa's real based on the evidence presented?
Nathan.
Hold on, Alan.
Well, you can see it, so it must be real.
Like the ISS, right?
But Anthony, you can go out and see the ISS yourself and verify yourself.
I've seen Santa with my own eyes.
Yeah, and you can see something that cannot possibly be accounted for by an aeroplane.
Yeah, but if I predict that we'll see it on New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, and there'll be like many people doing videos about how real it is, how is that any different to the ISS when they tell you?
It's not an authoritative source. Yeah, okay, you go. You tell me where it's going to be, and I'll go out there. Tell me where this event's going to be, and if I go and see it, then yes, I would verify it.
Sure, we can all do that. We know that, but you can just look at it online, right? Because that's where a lot of the evidence appears to be. You can see people.
Yeah, but we also know that people can manufacture, like this video, we know that people can make things up. So you don't rely on just a single unreliable witness. You have to rely on authoritative witnesses. That's the key difference. And you know the difference between an authoritative witness, one that's reliable and one that's not.
Yeah, but that's the point, though. These people that are observing Santa are authoritative witnesses. They're reliable, right?
Sorry, say again.
The people that are observing Santa are authoritative witnesses. They're reliable.
No, hold on. No. You have to. Why do they become authoritative witnesses? You can't. They don't just. You just don't assert their authority.
Why are they dismissed for not being?
Because we don't know these people, do we? They could be anybody. They're anonymous. Whereas the space agency institutions are not anonymous, and they have legal obligations. If they were to do what you were suggesting, they would be prosecuted. If there was a whistleblower, but Anthony, you must accept, if there was a whistleblower, if they were deceiving us, there would be a whistleblower at some stage, given the fact that millions of people are in this, and there's been not a single whistleblower anywhere in the world.
For what? For NASA?
Yes, for saying that NASA's making stuff up.
So what about?
People have been working for NASA.
That's not true.
But
that's not
there
true.
have been people that have worked for NASA, but they've not been people who's part of the research teams, or because obviously you could be a cleaner or something, and the guys who have claimed that NASA was lying are just basically little more than people who did a bit of mechanical work for some bit of it, or cleaners or something who had some not part of the actual driving force behind what it does.
So do we need to look up what the meaning of the word confidentiality agreement is?
Can you see what I've got on? You can't see what I've got on screen. I've just got a mirror report, and just read the first few lines. It says NASA Santa Tracker 2017. How to follow, quote, Father Christmas sleigh over the UK.
And you are aware that people...
Can I just interrupt 1 sec? Have you noticed how the International Space Station appears to be always connected with all the... what's the chances of somebody capturing the International Space Station as it transits Jupiter, or indeed the Moon? But now we're seeing articles over and over and over again where the International Space Station just happens to be in the picture at the same time as something else happens to be in the picture, and it's all the time. I look at that and think they're laughing at us again. It's ridiculous. The mathematical probability of that being true it's like evolution to be true. It's ridiculous.
You do realise that it goes around. Is it 3 times? How quickly? How often does it go around the Earth? It's a ridiculous number of times per day.
Well, it's every 90 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's exactly. There you go. So it's covering a good portion of the sky. So if you're clever enough, like Red's rhetoric was, and you just simply know that it's going to be something else is going to be.
Red's rhetoric being clever, dude.
Yeah, actually,
I got better pictures than NASA from a P900.
You're probably right. Red's rhetoric and clever probably isn't something that goes together. Actually, you're right.
Red's rhetoric got better pictures than NASA from a P900.
But you see, NASA doesn't spend its time just taking pictures of things from the. It moves on. It's got to spend money on going to Mars or whatever. They don't have a series of photographers just going to prove to you that the Earth is a sphere.
That's correct, Rumpus. They also spend money on editing those pictures.
Yeah. They do, yeah.
Filming them lenses.
Nathan.
Anecdotally, Barry Lyndon was filmed using a NASA lens. Borrowed.
Barry Lyndon.
Yeah, the film.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think you're right. It was. They used some very special lenses in that film. Yes.
Right.
Stanley
So
Kubrick.
the film industry, the people specifically dealing with film, had to borrow equipment of a superior quality from NASA.
Right, but that just means they go around worrying
So
about.
that
taking
would
pictures of
mean
the ISS
that they
against
are
the
on
moon.
the absolute cutting edge of cinematography.
Nathan, do us a favour.
Be a liquor saver.
No. Haunted House and No Globe are trapped in the other room. Could you post a link in the chat for them, please?
I can post the link again in the chat.
There's only 2 minutes left, though.
No,
That's
there's not
fine.
there's
2
not-
minutes
there's-
is good
there's
fun.
10
Nathan
minutes.
will add 15 for me.
There's 10 minutes left.
There you go. Riley's wrong again.
That was a bit harsh.
But
Funny
but
though.
going back to journalism, though, he offered only two arguments in favour of his position. One that you couldn't see a trillion miles.
Yeah, but is that because Jaren's not got the responses, or is it because that Aaron Ra didn't give him opportunity to even speak for most of it?
Yeah, I agree with you over time, but nonetheless, he was given chances to say things at points, and he chose to use that. He only offered those two pieces of evidence, and even after Steve said to him, "Look, just stop offering rhetoric and opinion. How about giving us an argument?" And even then, he started to use this classic line of, "Well, you've got to doubt this. Why did this happen? Who? This side of a conspiracy." Instead of offering evidence, he was just offering the classic line, which is, "How can you prove something?" And that doesn't mean to say the Earth is flat simply because you can't. Well, because in his opinion, you can't
The
prove.
thing is, Jaren is used to basically do his thing, and it was like an intro, but it's not. It wasn't very straightforward, and as
But
I
he
said, like I thought Jaren was very brave, but he could have done better. So
He
I-
didn't,
Yeah,
but he
got a
didn't
little
offer
bit
any
tripped
arguments,
up.
did he? He didn't offer any arguments.
I think Jaren did the best he could with the chances and the
But,
opportunities he was given.
Anthony, he didn't offer any arguments, reason, evidence, logic for the flat Earth. He couldn't.
Yeah, but
he
now
just-
did Alan Ra.
He did actually do it, but it was very quickly glanced over and obfuscated. So you might have not picked it up because
Well,
it
okay.
only got half a second.
Tell you what,
in.
let's put the gauntlet down then. Let's get Aaron Ra in here and let's have the debate with him as the baller.
I don't think he would come.
I don't think he'd come either.
No, I don't think he would like that very much.
No.
Well, I think
I
obviously
did
that's.
officially post in chat an invite to the to Nathan's Flat Earth debate.
But actually, why don't
All
we
are
put a
welcome.
video out so that
All
Aaron Ra
are
gets
welcome.
to see it? Why don't you come in the chat with in here with me, Nathan, me and Nathan, and let's just see what confidence
No,
level
he
you've
did
got.
say that he would actually accept any invitation, but his criteria is you have to be a representative of a body. That was I don't quite know why Jonism counted for that, but he said he will accept invitations for anything, providing you are representative of other people. That's his criteria for accepting an invitation. He did say in the thing with journalism, he would in that hangout that he does accept in all invitations.
How about the human race?
Who is Alan Ra? Whatever you call him. Who's he representative
Ra.
of?
He's
He's
an
an
yeah.
atheist activist guy from the United
He's
States.
an evolutionist.
Yeah, he's basically an evolutionist. That's his main thing,
That is hilarious.
He believes that we all come from monkeys.
which we do.
No.
Yeah, right.
Ascendants.
Yeah, descendants. Yeah, I just wondered why complicated.
Because
Alan
we're not
Yeah,
monkeys.
sorry, macroevolution, it does not work.
No, I
No.
agree.
does.
No, it doesn't.
No evidence.
Eventually, a species mutates so far that it becomes sterile.
And where did you get that?
One
information
genetic
from?
group cannot turn into another genetic group. You can adapt your genetics. You can even
Yeah, no.
switch your genetics, change within a certain spectrum. If you move too far beyond that, then you become sterile.
Correct.
So,
Let's hope you're the last of the line then.
Thanks.
thanks for that.